just the nicest people in the world. And they say, hey, I want to introduce you to somebody. He's a guy that you might have heard of before. He's a regular here at Jackson's. Great guy. And Google his name. You'll learn a little bit more about him. And as soon as he said the name Frank Citro, I said to myself, I know who this guy is. I've read about him. He's got a lot of stories, and this is somebody I would love to meet. And I met him. We had a great conversation. And the government, of course, alleging him of being involved with organized crime. He calls himself the last of the dinosaurs. I'll let him expand a little bit on that, but it certainly is a pleasure having Frank Citro joining us in studio. Frank, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Actually, I've been looking forward to this all week because you're a friend of Brian's, which I know for quite some time, so that makes you an automatic friend. Okay?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I don't like to do too many of these type of shows, but it's a pleasure to do it. I hope I could be some kind of insight to you and your audience. Mm-hmm. I hope I don't upset anybody, but if I do, forget about it. I don't care.
Frank, I upset people every day. I don't care either, so we agree on that.
Good,
I call Donald Trump the orange turd, and it gets people up in arms.
You want to talk about, I'm not a politician guy.
Right.
But I want to tell you something that just I made mention to to somebody last night. Because I think our country is in a sad, sad state right now, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or whatever the hell. But I want to tell you what came across to my mind. A lot of times, lawyers will call me up to get my take on the way I would do a case, if I was the lawyer, because sometimes they can't figure out how to go with it. But, this is what I thought. Isn't it amazing that this week is Holy Week? Mm-hmm. And there are so many people out there want to disband holy stuff, no matter what way you believe in the Lord. Now, I'm not a hypocrite. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a church guy, but I do believe in the Lord. But isn't it amazing on Holy Week, the way they persecuted, tortured, and crucified Jesus, the Son of God? They're doing that to Donald Trump. Our country's in bad shape with this situation. No matter what you want to believe, they want to put the nails in his hands.
Well, as I've said, Frank, from the beginning, you're innocent until proven guilty. That's the way this country works. And my thoughts on that is if Donald Trump broke the law, then let the chips fall where they may. I'm not going to say this isn't political because it probably is.
Right.
But I also believe that Donald Trump has probably broken the law, but he's innocent until proven guilty. And we'll have to see where the chips fall there. We'll get back to that. I want to ask you this. How long have you lived here in Las Vegas for?
Well, actually, the first time I came here was in the middle of 1962.
Wow. I was not born yet.
And after a tremendous amount of trips back and forth, I came here back, I'd say in 1969 when I decided to come and stay.
Originally from?
New Jersey, Jersey
You're
City.
a Jersey guy. I love it. Atlantic City?
Jersey City, right next to beautiful scenic Newark.
I grew up in Connecticut. I used to go to New Jersey all the time. And we'll talk about my favorite show of all time out of New Jersey, The Sopranos. We'll get to that. All right, so you come out here in the early 60s.
Right.
When was the first time you were introduced to, say, a Spilatro or Lefty Rosenthal? When do you remember that first conversation where you were introduced to those two men?
Well, I'm going to be really honest with you guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch what I say because...
Understood. I am too.
This is something I have to really think about. But I'm not going to do any bad language because you have a very nice audience.
That's debatable.
But, I'm going to be kind of truthful, and because I'm the type of guy that really don't care. You want to step forward? I'm an old man, but see how it works out for you.
Understood.
But, I came out here with, say, in 69 and whatever, and it wasn't much after that, a couple years later, that, that I knew who Tony was, and Tony knew who I was. And there's a situation between him and I that I disclosed a little bit about 6 months ago to another station in Europe. But I can't get into that. But, and then the Lefty Rosenthals, to me, I never liked this guy at all. You know what I'm saying? Actually, I give him a slap a few times.
You got into physical altercations with
I
Lefty.
give a punk a slap. That's what he deserves,
So
and you know what? You see this movie Casino?
Yes.
And they got that other jerk off, Robert De Niro. You understand what I'm saying? Listen, I don't like Biden, but he's still my president, even though I don't like him.
Right.
And this guy turns around and says things about, Trump, what he would do to him. I like him to say that to me,
You don't like Robert De Niro talking
No, because I
politics,
don't like the way he carries himself. Don't never denounce your president.
I hear what you're saying, but going back to the movie Casino.
Right. That's all full of garbage.
So let me ask you a question, if you don't mind, because this is very interesting to me. You got into physical altercations with the real Lefty Rosenthal.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people were very scared of Lefty Rosenthal.
Yeah, well, that's if you...
Can you explain to me the first physical altercation, if you remember the discussion you guys were having and the fallout you had, and what led to a physical confrontation with Lefty Rosenthal?
Well, actually, it was at the Stardust, and I'm testing my memory now. And there was a fella there that was selling watches.
Mm-hmm.
Because in those days, it was just like in New York. A guy got some stuff, and the guy had a nice watch.
Right.
And some guy had bought it that I knew, and it wasn't what it was supposed to be. So I grabbed the guy and I says, "Give me his money back."
Fake? Were they fake watches?
Well, they weren't what they were supposed to be.
I understand.
They were bogeys.
Okay.
It looked good, but it wasn't.
Right.
And now this guy is, he's not a tough guy. Somebody knows me, and I'm not that I'm a tough guy. But he said, "Frankie, could you help me get my?" So I told the guy, "Give him his money back." You understand? Well, anyway, he didn't want to do it. There's a little confusion. Here comes Lefty Rosenthal with security. Security knows me. Lefty don't know me, and he knows this guy because he probably was getting a few dollars from him.
He was getting kickback.
Yeah. Well, he says, "Hey," and I give him a crack right there on the floor of the
You
Stardust.
punched Lefty Rosenthal.
No, I slapped him like the bitch that he is.
Oh, you slapped him.
Slapped
Wow.
Lefty Rosenthal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, why?
Wow. No, that's fascinating to me. I heard stories.
What? Somebody's gonna come knock on my door?
No, listen, being the guy that you are, that does not surprise me. You don't take crap from people.
No, I won't.
I respect that. But Lefty was a guy that I heard from people, because I play golf a lot at Las Vegas Country Club, and a lot of those guys used to play out there. And people told me stories about Lefty that if you even called him Lefty, you could be in a lot of trouble. Is that false? Is that fake? Is that a false story?
I can't tell you about other people.
Right.
Titles,
Yeah.
position, wealth don't mean nothing to me.
So let me go back to this story. You smack him.
Right.
What
Let me tell you
happened?
something.
Yeah.
Let me, because how my mind is.
Sure. Go right ahead.
Brain fart. Lefty should have got slapped every time he got dressed for being so miscoordinated.
Oh.
This guy was the worst dresser I've ever seen in my life.
This is coming from you with this awesome hat on.
Golf players didn't wear the crazy thing they wore.
Right.
They put nice clothes halfway decent on De Niro in the movie.
Frank, after you smack him, does he hit the ground? Does he stand up?
Oh, he didn't hit the ground, but he stumbled a little bit.
What does he say to you after that?
Ouch!
That's it?
Well, because
Does he walk away?
Because the security knew me.
They knew who you
They
were.
weren't going to step towards me.
Oh, they didn't stop you.
They didn't expect I was going to do it, but I wasn't going to put up with his BS.
The next-
And then another time I cracked him in California.
So the next time you see him, was it in California? He knew
No,
who
I
you
seen
were.
him all the time after that, but he knew enough not to try to tell me.
So
something.
he didn't disrespect you after that, or
Oh,
did?
no.
Right. He knew
Oh,
too
no.
better. He wasn't going to
Especially
do that.
that Tony told him,
Right.
you better not
So
step
you
on
say
my
Tony,
door.
you say Spilatro.
Yeah.
Because they were buddy for a while, right?
Yeah, for a while.
And does Spilatro say anything to you after that situation? Does he talk to you about that?
Not a word.
Why do you think that is?
Because of the mutual respect we have for each other.
Right.
Listen, just like politics, a lot of people are going to have good thoughts, bad thoughts about different people. And I'm winging this in my head right now.
No, I understand, but do you feel like people behind the scenes talked about you and said, hey, you don't want to mess with this guy?
Well, I'm sure there was people that said that.
Right.
But, basically I'm a good guy.
Right.
Just don't think that I'm a punk or a
I've
fag.
enjoyed talking to you.
That you're going
Right.
to stick it in my Keister for Easter.
But
It
there's
ain't
certain
happening.
people you don't disrespect. There's certain people.
I live in a world of respect.
Right.
You show
Whether it's the
respect.
president, whether it's the president or a former president, you're a man that you want to respect people until they give you a reason not to respect them.
Exactly right.
And that's old school, right?
You know, I've done a lot of documentaries, and I say it.
Right.
A man is only as good as his word. When the man's word's no good, the man's no good.
When do you think that ended as far as the era changed and the disrespect was so imminent? Do you feel like it was the 80s, the 90s? Because back in the late 60s and 70s, for the most part, people knew not to respect other people, especially their elders and people that were in power. Do you feel like that changed over the years?
I would think in the mid-70s it started, and here's my viewpoint on it. I think it was the government who made it fashionable for people on the street and so-called wise guys to become stool pigeons and give them a license and give them some way to go. You understand what I'm saying? And that loosened everything up.
Right.
And then the respect started to be lost with that. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying?
Sure, understood.
And that's my viewpoint. I think the government, even though we live in the greatest country in the world, our government is bad. And they want their end on everything they do. Look, bookmaking is illegal.
Right.
Yet they got into it. They got off track betting. Gambling was illegal. They handle all the lotteries. Are you kidding me?
And isn't it interesting that the government only legalizes things like sports betting and marijuana when they get a piece?
That's the only time. Otherwise, you're double.
So you got into sports betting many years ago, right? And
Yeah,
now,
a
by the
little
way,
bit.
I still know for the record, a lot of people who are bookies that have not been caught that take action from people. It's still happening all over.
People
the place.
don't even know why the bookmaker is so strong. Do you know why?
Why.
You see, if you know what off-track betting is,
Of course.
and if you go to a casino here, they got all the sports books.
Of course.
What do you have to do when you go there and you want to bet the Clippers? We'll say, right? You have to put your money up.
Right.
But if you go to a bookmaker, you go on credit.
You go on credit.
You go on your word.
Can I ask you a question? And
Ask
you don't
me a
have
question.
to. You don't have to answer
Well,
it if you don't want
listen,
to.
if I don't want to answer it,
Then
I
don't
won't.
answer
I've been
it.
interrogated by the best.
What do you do when you have a client back in the day who loses 2 bets in a row, 3 bets in a row, 4 bets in a row? He's into you for maybe 10 racks, let's just say. Refuses, he will not return your phone calls. He will not respond to you. You know he's running from you. Back in the early 70s, how do you handle a client like that? Obviously, you're not going to take his action anymore, I would imagine. That's obvious.
Well,
but,
let me try to answer it this way.
yep.
I have heard some people might handle it this way. Some people, if they lent you money or gave you credit, you knew in front that's the person you should pay. There's some people you can get away with things with. It's like, your mom, you can tell your mom you'll be home at 7:30 at night, and you get there at 8:30, and she gives you half a bowl of cereal instead of a full bowl. Some people going to take that whole bowl from you, and you know it. So, some people will test the waters, but without going into the violence part of it, which I think you read it in between the lines.
Of course.
There's some people you just can't play with,
Right. So like, there are some people, right? They just don't have the money. They're broke. The degenerate gamblers. But when you look at like a series like The Sopranos, you lean on them with their businesses. You take a piece of their
This is
business.
something else that people don't know.
Right.
So let's pretend I'm a bookmaker.
Yep.
And he comes to me, he wants to bet a game. He's never bet with me before. What's the first thing I got to say to myself? Why does he want to bet with me? Why does he bet with the regular guy he bets? That means he owes somebody some money.
Oh.
Or he had an argument.
Right.
Otherwise, why would he want to bet with me? He's a new customer.
Right.
You understand? Now, if he doesn't come to me right, like you did for me to get here,
right,
you got to come to me right. You can't
course.
just walk up to me and say, hey, come on, I want to do a radio show. I want to talk to you.
I don't know what the government alleged you did with sports betting, but what can you tell us that you're able to tell us? How long were you in this business? Can you say that? How long were you a bookmaker?
I never was in the business. as I went to prison because I said I didn't do anything.
Right. You never.
I'm still pleading not guilty.
You never.
It ain't working.
Right. But you never in a courtroom. What do you make of narcs? What do you make of the people that were wired? What do you make of the people that were trying to get after you because they were trying to cover their own
Well,
ass?
they've been doing that my whole life. But anyway, when it comes to narcs, meaning drugs, that's something that I stayed away from my whole life. You know, even today, and I've had a lot of operations in the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a martyr. I don't believe in drugs.
Mm-hmm. My sister just passed away from drugs 2 months ago, 37 years old. So trust me, I'm with you on that, Frank.
You know, when I came out here, I had my first family. I had daughters back home. I literally went all around and said, and this doesn't make me a tough guy. It just makes me my own person. This was my way to try to protect my family.
Right.
When I came out here and I was going to stay here, and there's a reason why I came out here, is I went to everybody back there that I thought was involved in, because drugs was a big deal. And I says, I'm going to tell you something. If either one of my daughters ever get any of your product, you're not going to like the outcome. So make sure that they don't get it. Don't sell it to them. Don't.
And they
give
listened
it
to
them.
you. They listened.
Well, they knew I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And I says, and if you know one of my daughter's friends that you're selling something to, might give it to them, they're going to pay too.
I don't blame you. I don't
And
blame
guess
you.
what? They were fortunate enough because that it didn't happen.
How many people in your life do you think you had conversations with, whether it be on the phone or in person, that you suspect might have been wired?
Oh, well, a tremendous amount of people, because
Dozens, hundreds?
I would say a good sum of people. I would say in my lifetime, people trying to put me in a trick bag, every bit of over 30 major times.
Frank, how can you trust people?
I don't.
Yeah.
You can't. I don't trust you.
I'm not wearing a wire.
I don't care.
Yeah, it's hard for you
Because
to
let me
trust
tell
people.
you something. People always try to hurt other people. I said something to your guy out front.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. If the politicians, and I use that in general, would leave the people alone, you know, we wouldn't be fighting with each other. We'd be able to get along. If the politicians would do to their wives and husbands what they've been doing to the public of the United States, they'd be pretty happy campers in that bedroom.
I agree. No, listen, I agree with you. If you're just joining us, by the way, he is Frank Citro, legend, and as he calls himself, the last of the dinosaurs. And you say that, Frank, because a lot of people that are your age, sadly, are no longer with us anymore.
No, there aren't too many people around anymore. I mean, quite honest with you, with all the situations that I've been in, physical, mental, you know, incarceration, stabbings, bullet wounds, fights.
Right.
I don't know sometimes why I'm still here, but like I alluded to earlier, I do believe in the Lord, and I really believe when He wants you, that's when you're going. It doesn't matter how much money you got. Like Steve Jobs had all the money in the world.
Cancer, yeah.
When the world wanted him, he took him. It doesn't matter if you how much power you got, who you. When He wants you, you're going. It doesn't mean when I say He, you could be praying to Buddha or Jesus or you know. It doesn't matter what denomination that you believe in.
Yeah.
Everybody's entitled to their own.
I agree with you. Somebody else that's around.
There ain't nothing saving you when that guy wants you.
No, you're right about that, Frank.
But see, here's my problem.
Yeah.
He don't want me, and he don't want me. The Lord don't want me because He knows I'll be chasing a few of those angels up there.
No, I understand.
The devil don't want me because he knows I'll try to install air conditioning.
Do you believe there's a
understand?
heaven and hell?
Also a purgatory. I absolutely believe that.
Do you believe you're going to heaven?
I would like to do that. I've been trying for a lot of years to change a lot of things, but I can't change the past.
Right.
I will not be a hypocrite. But I'm not happy about a lot of things that I did in my life. but I can't change it. And part of my goal has been, and I'm not looking for sympathy from anybody, is to try to do a couple of good things. In fact, as long as you ask, here's a good thing. I'm going to do a little advertisement if you don't mind.
Sure.
This month, the 19th, at the Italian American Club.
Great place.
I'll be on the show there with about 20 other entertainers for it's a fundraiser for the NF Hope. You understand?
Yes.
And those are the kids with neurofibrosis.
That's nice of you to do that. Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this here. Check out the Italian American Club.
I'll talk
the
about
money.
it.
The monies go
Yep.
to I'm going to be on the show. They're looking forward to me to be Frankie C, and I'm known to do a couple of nice things.
I love that.
And
you do things like that to help people, and
I've done a lot of charity work.
I love that.
Yeah. A few years back ago, I did a big event, and this really upset me. I did a big event to help out some police officers that were behind the Candlelight Kids, and I put together a show within 48 hours that would have taken more than 6 months to do, and then when it came out in the newspaper that I was the one that helped, the superiors got very mad at the officers that were running it.
That's too bad.
And it made me very upset because I was doing it for the kids.
Speaking of things that get you upset, which is not something I want to do here today, but
No.
I want to ask you this, Frank.
Sure.
What is the most upsetting thing when people come up to you and they hear your name? What's the thing that upsets you the most? A question that they might ask you that annoys you or that's offensive? Like, what have you gotten in your life?
Can I be really honest?
Sure.
Okay. You might not like it out there, and you might not like it in here. But right now, I'm looking around the room, and this is how I'm going to answer you. This is the start of a new joke. We got a Jew, we got a black guy, and an Italian. They walked into a bar. So, to try to be as nice as I could, and you'll have to allow me to say a certain word, even though I don't normally use it.
Okay.
You say what upsets me. You take your here. He's a black man.
Uh-oh.
I'll be very honest.
Uh-oh.
After a while, you get tired of hearing this and tired of hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
I know an awful lot of black people in my lifetime, being an entertainer, being a writer. And to me, excuse the word, there's a big difference between a black man and a nigger. And you could be a white person being that. You could be a Chinese person being that. As much as he would be upset, it's not funny to me. Hey, yo, wait, how you doing? They want to emulate something they've seen in a commercial, a movie.
Stereotypes. Yeah.
And you want to know
You don't
something?
like that.
After a while, it's the same thing as you, my friend. And I just know you.
I was worried about where you're going to go with that. I was like,
Well, I'm being honest with you. You want me?
I'm about to say, I was about to give my piece too.
As much as you would be offended,
Yeah.
it does to me.
Did The Sopranos offend you? Because there were a lot of
Let me tell you about The Sopranos.
Sure.
First of all, whether you want to believe it or not, I'm not a liar. I knew all those people that they talked about personally. Now, I said for 2 years, somebody's talking out of school because the first couple of years of The Soprano was so on the money. That means a lot of people opened up their yap. You understand? But then after that, somebody goes to say, hey, you're coming up with too much stuff. And then they went into the dream sequences and this and that. And then, so.
Is realistic, you think, though? A lot of it was very realistic.
A lot of it was on the money, too much on the money.
Well, Paulie Walnuts is a guy that used to be.
Oh, and I knew.
Yeah. So you knew him.
Sure. I did another movie with him. You understand? But, I just had to straighten somebody else out not too long ago. Not when I say straighten out, I don't mean physically,
Right.
but.
Not like Lefty Rosenthal. You straightened him out.
You'd be surprised the ones that I've straightened out. Nobody ever come looking for me without being with a gang of guys.
Do you believe that there were tons of people in Las Vegas that were truly scared of Frank Citro? There were people that were scared of you that didn't even really want to talk to you because they were afraid they might say the wrong thing.
No. People knew how I conducted myself. I've always been a gentleman outside. I wasn't a guy that was going to put up with any nonsense from anybody. I don't want to sound like I'm making myself a hero. I wasn't afraid to get a punch in the nose because, you know, a lot of people know I was a professional fighter too.
Right.
If you don't recognize me, I can lay down for you. Don't start laughing. So anyway, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
So, and I didn't mix my words when I spoke to somebody. It was very clear what the conversation was going to be.
How many times in your life did you feel to yourself that this could be the end, that you felt like people were out to get you or maybe even kill you?
It still is the same way.
Do you?
You know, let me tell you something.
I don't know what it's like to live like that.
Let me tell you something. I have this asked all the time, like you said a little while ago. Frankie, how many tough guys have you known in your lifetime? And I told him, truthfully, I've only known 2 tough guys my whole life, and I get a Christmas card from the other guy every year. Did you hear what I said?
I do, yeah.
Now, whether you want to believe this or not, in Jersey, I used to belong as a teenager to a gang called the Mean 13. And there was only one other member besides me in the gang. You got the picture?
I do, yeah. How many times, though, in your life, Frank, was a gun pulled on you?
Many times.
Dozens?
Many.
And you survived every single one of those circumstances. How?
I've taken a couple of bullets in my lifetime. And I'm trying to be honest with you and be honest with myself without making myself a hypocrite or sound better than I am or less. You do what you have to do for the moment that you're involved in. If you got somebody who's got a gun to your head, you either tell him to pull the trigger or shut the hell up and do what he says for that. But don't think you're going to walk away because you scared me with it. I remember the first somebody did put a gun to me. I was just 13 years old.
A gun to
and
you?
Put it to my temple.
Oh, my God. In New Jersey?
In New Jersey. Can I get a little out of line for a second?
Yes. Say what you need to say.
I remembered the circumstances. There was I was almost 13. I was with a friend of mine. His name also was Frank. We're going down the street. We spot this here guy. This guy was about 20, known to have hurt and killed a couple of people. You understand what I'm saying? A total wacko, a nut. And he hated Italians. And he would hit you and hurt you.
White guy, black guy?
White guy.
White guy.
And as soon as he saw us, he's going to hurt us because he knows we're the neighborhood guy. That's his thing. Can I say it? And I'm thinking as how to do this. So we take off because he comes after us. And we get to a point, I went this way and my buddy went the other way. And he's faster than me. And so I run and I duck in this alley back home. You understand? Between houses. But there was no way out. I picked the wrong alleyway, and he come in and he got me and easily threw me down because I'm a little guy. He's a man.
You're 12 years old.
12 and a half, about, yeah about 12 and a half, 13. Threw me down very easily. And he took out an automatic and he put it to my head. And I wet myself. I remember that. I remember I had this little windbreaker on. I was so afraid, Brian. I pulled it up over like this here because I didn't even want to see it, you know, because I know he kills people.
Right.
He kills people. It's not make believe. This guy kills people.
Right.
He gets paid to do it,
And
he don't like certain people.
And he only pinned you down and pointed the gun at your head as a 12-year-old because he didn't like Italians.
That was one of the reasons. Just because I was a neighborhood guy, you know.
Right.
All right. And I was totally terrified. And it seemed like I was there for 100 years in a fetal position, and then all of a sudden I realized he wasn't there. And I look up, and I don't see him in the alleyway, and my mind says he's trying to fool me to make it more sinister or more gruesome. And I tiptoed out the alleyway, looked up and down. He was gone. To this day, I don't know why he didn't pull the trigger.
Frank, that's never something you ever forget.
No, but wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let me finish this here.
Yeah.
You want to know something about me? I looked up and down the street. I had wet myself. I probably shed a few tears too, being honest with you. I mean, I'm being honest with you. I was so afraid. And I made a decision, Brian, right there on that sidewalk, that I never, ever will be afraid of another human on this planet for the rest of my life. And within a short period of time, that person was never, ever going to do that to somebody else. End of story.
He was taken care of.
End of story.
A normal situation with a 12-year-old that had to go through that experience would continue to probably live their life, and rightfully so. Frightened, scared.
I wasn't afraid no more. I made up my mind. I never will be afraid of another human being again in my life.
And that's probably a big reason why you're still here today.
Maybe.
That's incredible.
Maybe.
That's
I haven't told that to too many people.
That's incredible. And frightening at the same time. You're a young kid, but yet you had the toughness at such a young age. Where do you think you got that from? Did you get that from your family, your father, your mother? Where do you get that from?
I come from a very big family.
Mm-hmm.
I was the last out of 10. 10 boys. I was the youngest out of 10 boys. My father was a great guy. He loved my mother like you can't believe. My mother was my toughest opponent, and yet both of them educated me about a lot of things, They weren't happy with a lot of things that I did in life.
Right.
They didn't condone anything. But I got advice about certain things, and it was good advice.
Is there somebody that took you under their wing?
A lot of people took me
When
under
you see
their
a
wing.
movie like because I asked that, you see, and again, it's a movie, but a Bronx Tale, right? That type of situation where somebody takes them under their wing. And I know you don't like Robert De Niro, but he happens to be.
You know what? Let me change this up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't like a couple of things that he said.
About the president, former president.
About other things, too. Now, I've done a couple of movies with him.
When you say you've done a couple of movies with him, you're on the set, you help writing
No,
of the movie?
I actually, for Midnight Run, I was the stand-in for Richie Ferrangi.
Okay.
And a technical advisor with stuff like that. At the time, I still was on the show with Dennis Farina, who was my good friend for Crime Story, and I could tell you a million stories of just about all that there stuff.
And the director of Casino, of course, you had a lot of interaction.
Scorsese,
Yeah.
He used to piss me off, this little son of a gun.
Why? What did he do to you?
Well, one of the things was I used to smoke. I quit smoking 6 years ago. I smoked from I was 8 and a half, 9 years old.
You started smoking at 9 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, I got pictures that my daughter came up with.
And how old are you now? You're in your 80s, right?
Yeah.
And wow, that's unbelievable. And you started smoking when you were 9.
I would say I was smoking almost regular when I was 9 years old.
Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable.
Yeah,
so what was your issue with Martin Scorsese? They wanted your help with Casino, right?
Well, Joe Pesci being in it. Joe used to be with me for a long time.
He lived with you for a little while,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And why is that? Because he wanted to learn.
Well, I knew Joey from back home.
You knew him because he's from back east.
Yeah,
right.
and sometimes something about Frank Citro. Frank Citro never asks anybody for anything. I don't, even if it means my life. Joey made it. I never asked him to help me like a million other people would have. I know things about Joey that nobody knows. And listen, he became a big star and fine and everything like that. But there was a time I was upset with him.
When you say you know things about Joey that nobody else knows, are you saying things that would not portray him in a very good light?
Well, you want me to be really honest? And
Please.
he sees this here. I don't give a damn if he gets mad. This is what people don't know about Joe Pesci. There is no Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci was a guy like James Cagney. He took a little bit from you, a little bit from you, a little bit from you, and he made his own character. And he became Joe Pesci. Mm-hmm. Now, I taught him how to do so many things that he made a lot of money with. Let me tell you a story. So he used to play with the Frankie Vincent and nobody know, only people
Talk about Goodfellas.
Yeah. Frankie Vincent did a lot of movies with him. He was in Raging Bull and he was in Casino and all that stuff.
Right.
And Frankie was smart. He was a hipster, and he was from the neighborhood. And boy, I lost track of what I was going to say. Anyway, they used to play in down the shore, and they were Joe Pesci and Frankie Vincent. Joe played the lead guitar and sang. Frankie Vincent played the drums, and I think they had, Bob was the other. They were called the Aristocats, and they used to do a whole bunch of stuff. So Joey says to me one time, I used to go there with my Gumadi, and he says, Frankie, you got to help me, man. I said, what? He says, I'm a little guy, always get in trouble with these other guys. I can't beat nobody up like you, And they always used to come to my fights, believe me. And he says, how do I get, so I'm on top of a situation. I said, look, Joey, it's simple. You're not a big man. You're not, and Joey had some nerve, He actually was a hairdresser at one point, like Danny DeVito. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So I said, tell you what you do. You get a problem with a guy. In those days, all the bars, they all had ashtrays. You know what I'm saying? Take an ashtray, put a towel on it, and crack the guy in the face with it. Hit him in the head. You'll get his attention, and he'll go down.
You're reminding me.
He did it in Raging Bull.
Right, and I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was Goodfellas where he's at the bar, or maybe it was Casino. Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci at the bar, and a guy takes somebody's pen, and then
I'm going to tell you about that.
That's a real?
I taught him how to do it here in Vegas.
Really? You were in situations like that in real life yourself?
Oh, please.
Yeah, obviously. So that scene was something that you spoke to Joe Pesci about in Scorsese.
I taught him how to do it.
That's unbelievable.
But way before the movie.
Right. Somebody messed with you, stab him with a pen in the neck.
You see what happens, they're going to go.
How many situations like that you think you've been, I'm not even saying that you did it, that you've been involved with situations like that in your life? Hundreds, right?
Can I tell you something that's kind of selfish right now?
Yeah.
Because we didn't preempt anything that that's my phone, forget about it, I don't care. It's not an Obama. It's not an Obama phone, folks. Anyway, so maybe forget what I was going to say.
We were talking about. Yeah.
And we didn't preamble any of this. Right. We're just winging it. And I'll come back another time if you want.
Of course, anytime. You're welcome anytime, sure.
But you ever hear of this guy, Vin Diesel?
Vin Diesel, yep.
Vin Diesel, oh, yeah, well, all of a sudden now I have to be on Jeopardy with you. And so,
Did you ever meet members of the Rat Pack? Let's talk about something fun.
Oh, I knew them all the time.
What was that like, hanging out with those guys?
Let me tell you something.
Can you tell me about that?
Frank Citro was my very good friend. And let me tell you,
you were really tight with Frank. Wow, that's incredible.
My father and Frank Sinatra grew up in Hoboken in the same house.
Wow.
That's a whole different ball game with Frank.
Did you have any nights where you hung out with all those guys in Vegas and you guys were just
Frank Sinatra threw me a party in Jilly's that would stop an 8-day bike race.
Oh my God! And everybody was there.
Yeah.
Wow, that is unbelievable.
Frank was a good friend.
What were those guys like back in the day? You know them personally. What was Sammy Davis Jr. like?
I had a situation with my own mother with Sammy Davis. Sammy Davis was some entertainer. So this is what happened. So my mother used to like to go to Atlantic City. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not allowed in casinos, but I still was allowed at that time, And I was a pretty heavy gambler. And my mother, let her rest in peace, my mother had to have breast cancer and have a breast removed. And I promised my mom I'd take her to Atlantic City with Dad, for when she's feeling better, So afterwards, fortunately, I had the money to get her a prosthesis and everything. And we go, I'm taking her to Atlantic City. And she's thrilled that she's still around. So I says, Ma, I'm tired because I had to fly in and everything. I says, give us some money. My father some money. I said, listen, I'm going to go up to the suite and go to sleep. I says, I made arrangements for you to go see the show tonight. She says, who's playing? I said, Sammy Davis. She says, I ain't going to go see that skinny little bastard. I don't like. I says, what? I didn't know she hated him.
Skinny bastard.
Yeah, well,
Sammy Davis seemed like a very nice man.
Listen to me.
Yeah.
So I says, Ma, this is one of the best of the day. I don't care. See, I didn't know about a situation that happened many, many, many years ago with a black man and my mother and my father, and they thought my father was just going to let it go, But
Right.
anyway,
Yeah.
I says, you're going to see the show. I got to go see I already made all kinds of arrangements with people.
Right.
So the next day, we're having the breakfast together. And I says, how was the show? And she went like this. She says, I am so glad that you made me go see that show last night.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
says, really, Ma? I says, he was sensational. She says, I don't think I've seen a better show my whole life. He says, every song was great. The way, he says, he didn't do one of his. I says, Ma, that's his persona on stage with all that. I said, she says,
She enjoyed it.
I can't believe that so I said, I'll tell you what, would you like to go see him again tonight? So the guy who was opening up, who just recently passed away about a year or so ago, Sal Richards, what a beautiful man. I called Sal up. I said, Sal, make arrangements again for my mother and father to come see Sammy tonight and all that. I said, and do a little something special. He says, I'll take care of it. Tell Sammy knows it's me, right? Yep. Towards the end of the show, just before his last song, he says, May day, would you escort Mr. and Mrs. Citro to my suite after the show for a private party?
Oh, my gosh.
My mother felt like a 12-year-old schoolgirl. Oh, hello. You understand what I'm saying?
That's so cool.
Oh, to me,
Did you ever have interactions with James Gandolfini about his Tony Soprano character?
well, he would come out here, and I had a brief 2-minute conversation one time in a private place with a whole bunch of people. But I've done this my whole life. I've never ever put anybody in a precarious position because of what, that way they don't be hurt. You understand?
Sure.
And Gandolfini was terrific. Don't forget what happened. We lost Gandolfini and Dennis Farina in the same week.
Horrible.
And
Horrible. Yeah.
he played Tony's
Wasn't he
Soprano.
great? I just think the acting on that
Actually,
show.
I should have been in The Sopranos.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
I turned it down.
You were offered a role. Do you remember what role it was?
Sure.
What role was it?
Well, wait a minute.
Okay.
If I were to tell you about it, they changed it up, and the fella that's a big-time actor nowadays, who used to be the entertainment director.
Oh, of course.
Who are we talking about?
Tony Sciarippa. He's been on this show before.
It's Steve Sciarippa.
Or did I say Tony? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Steve.
I actually saved his life.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Wow.
that Jew, tough son of a gun. He was working a nightclub here on Las Vegas, on Paradise,
Yeah.
and some guys wanted to shoot him one night. And I happened to show up. I said, what's going on? He said, Papa, I never let it happen. That guy could fight. But anyway, I I had known about The Sopranos was going to come on the air because I knew a producer's girlfriend that I bothered in Santa Monica with, and they told me that this new show's coming out and that I would be perfect for it. So they got me an audition, and I got the opening show.
Wow.
And I turned it down. And
Was this Steve Sharippa's character?
No.
Oh, okay.
And I turned it down.
Why?
Because I was going to get killed off in the first 3 minutes of the opening of the show. So why would I want to do that? Nobody's going to get to know me. Right?
Oh, so this was...
So I told my agent to tell them, thank you very much.
Right.
And if they ever wanted me for an episode where I'm through the whole episode or a recurring role, they'll boom. Okay.
Gotcha.
So they did it because I'm a respectful guy. So now we get another call. And they want me for a recurring role. Oh, man. So they call me. My agent calls me. He says, Frankie, they called me. They want you, because they heard more about me, He says, you got to go to, I says, I'm in Jersey right now. He says, you got to go to New York. He says, because they want you tomorrow. I says, I ain't going.
Yeah.
He says, what? They said, you're there in Jersey and you don't want to go to New York? I says, I can't. Why can't you? I says, one of my brothers has passed away and I'm here on family matters.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And family is first
Of course.
with me.
Yeah.
And call them and tell them, thank you very much,
Right.
but I can't do it and I
Right.
won't do it.
Of course.
And Steve Sharippa, I think, was wind up with it. Now, a caveat to this story is, do you know who Jimmy Roselli is? Well, there was two Jimmy Rosellis. One was a gangster, and one was a big singer like Sinatra,
Right.
who Sinatra stifles his career. I knew him very well. I'm going to do a movie in California. I went and auditioned and aced it. Over 500 guys. I aced the part. Co-starring role. Dennis Farina was co-starring. John Travolta was starring about Jimmy Roselli, the singer.
Right.
They never did the movie. The movie was supposed to be a $90 million budget to maybe to go 120. They shelved it because John Travolta's schedule came up and they couldn't meet it, and they wind up doing it. But when I aced the part,
Yeah.
and it was for Van Sant was the director, and he knew I had flown in for it, right? And I aced it. I didn't know I aced it.
Van Sant from the Sopranos. Yeah.
Gus Van Sant was the
Oh,
director.
okay. Gotcha.
No, not Van Sant, the guy from
Okay. Gotcha.
the
Bruce
boss.
Springsteen.
No,
Yeah.
not
Right.
that.
I got you.
Gus Van Sant, I think was the director's name.
I-
Big time.
I want, because we only have 2 minutes left to go. I
Sure.
told you the time goes really fast.
I'm sorry, guy.
No. What are you apologizing for? I love these stories. I'm kidding me, Frank. I want to give you one more opportunity before we go, and I'd love to have you back on again. You're welcome.
You're
welcome
never
back
break my
anytime.
word.
Thank you.
I will come back.
I appreciate that.
because everybody's been wonderful to
Thank
me.
you. I appreciate
I hope
that.
more people listen in.
Yes, I appreciate you coming in. I want to give you an opportunity because you have this great charity event that you're doing.
Yes.
And I want to give you another opportunity to talk about it, how people can get involved and raise money for charity.
Well, if you allow me to give this to your guy,
Sure,
he
sure,
can
sure.
show it.
Sure.
Let me tell you something. I have even trouble. My education is very limited. I didn't have too much, so my
You sound like a pretty smart guy to me.
Well,
I'm not saying that,
I have
just
trouble
to say
saying neurofibrosis, but it's the NF concert,
Right.
which is being held on the 19th at the Italian American Club. There's going to be at least 20 major entertainers. They asked me to be on there
And when is it again?
the 19th of this month, correct,
Okay, I'm
guys?
going to do my best to be there.
And
Yep.
call up. You can get tickets.
Mm-hmm.
The money's going to be donated to these people that have it, but mostly it's for the kids that have this disease. You understand? And I was so thrilled that I was asked to be part of this show.
Sure.
And listen, you go there, you're going to get more than your money's worth. Take a couple of dollars, take it out of your pocket, put it in there to help
Yes.
these kids.
Yes.
Come down there and listen. I also, on a selfish note, go there, make arrangements to eat at it's one of the greatest
Yes,
eateries
I've been
in
there.
the
It's
planet.
phenomenal food. It's old school. It's
so
phenomenal.
treat yourself to a wonderful evening. I'm telling you, go
Yes.
get something